there are three sub-movements of modernism. Three. You've got the lost generation, the Jazz Age, and the Harlem Renaissance, all happening during modernism. Okay, the lost generation is the group of writers prolific between the two world wars. They're often distinguished because of their tendency to expatriate. So distinguished by expatriation. And definitely the attitudes for the lost generation is the same as modernism. You know, think of because Eliot is lost generation. So when you think lost generation, think Eliot and the love song of Java Proof Rock. You know, it's the same attitudes of modernism. Your lost generation folks are Eliot, Cummings, and Hemingway. And of course there's more, but that's just who we read. Now, Jazz Age is strictly 1920s, or the time of Prohibition. Sort of this cavalier, the best way to describe the Jazz Age is like they've got the same sort of, you know, hellish environment or events going on as Lost Generation writers. But the attitude was more like, you know what? If the world's going to hell in a handbasket, then I'm going to have a good time. You know, I'm not going to sit around and brood, you know, with my girlfriend and the tea. Like Eliot, I'm going to have a party. And the work that best epitomizes this era is, of course, The Great Gatsby. You know, it's published sort of cavalier attitude toward the era's devastation. Best epitomized, best expressed in The Great Gatsby by whom? Who wrote it? F. Scott Fitzgerald. Published smack in the middle of the decade 1925. F. Scott Fitzgerald. And this gives us the Gatsby gives us the perfect attitude for the Jazz Age too. Prohibition is when alcohol was made illegal. So the 18th Amendment makes alcohol illegal in 1920, and then it starts to be repealed in 1929 and is fully repealed in every state in 1933, I think. You know, with the onset of, or with the things sort of getting crazy in Europe, and the stock market crash, and the huge economic depression domestically, it was time for a cocktail, you know. So it's the 21st Amendment that brings back alcohol. So if you ever hear somebody say, oh, it's my First Amendment right to have a drink. No, it's not. It's your 21st Amendment right to have a drink. What is it?
Is that why at 21 you can drink?
No, because you can be 18 in New Orleans. So.
You can be 13 in Mexico and Jamaica.
Woo! but those aren't states, right? States 52 and 53, Jamaica and Mexico, right? I mean, we're talking about within the United States, right? What places covered by the Constitution. So it is your 21st Amendment right to have a cocktail. I don't know, though. That's a good idea. I don't think it should be 21. I think but we can't record that. So the Harlem Renaissance is, already talked about it for a second, a direct result of the Great Migration. Okay, so you want to lynch us and kill us all in the South? We're going to leave. Okay, you'll put us all in one area? This isn't such a bad thing. For the first time in American history, there was a sense of unity and community for African Americans, because it was illegal for black people to meet in large numbers before that, and even if it wasn't illegal, do you think it was going to be encouraged or supported if it did happen? Oh, no. So the idea of segregation, it was like, well, now you put us all in one place. So now we can organize and, have a sense of community. Out of the Great Migration comes the Harlem Renaissance, which is, and the Harlem Renaissance, some people debate whether it happens in the late teens or early 20s. There's writing happening around the 19 teens. So I would put it definitely the whole of modernism, and even goes on after that. So extends even beyond modernism, but starts during modernism. So late 19 teens, on through even beyond modernism, and it's I would say a cultural arts, and when I say arts, I mean not just writing, but I mean essayists, journalism, the visual arts, painting, sculpture, dance, music. And we lost so many artists because of segregation and Jim Crow laws. We lost so many we lost such a huge amount of amazing talent because of violence and the segregation. We lost even people who we still claim, like Josephine Baker. She went to Paris. So many classical artists who were black went to France. We're like, I'm going to live where I'm going to be appreciated. So, but there was still enough happening at home for it to be, highly recognized, no joke movement, and not just literary. So cultural arts, explosion of all disciplines. Emanating from urban African American segregated communities. All right? Everybody got it? So, like Harlem. Because for every city that was now becoming the modern metropolises that we know today, there would have been a segregated area, like Harlem, Southside in Chicago, DC, Philadelphia, Detroit. They all would have had their segregated neighborhoods, like Harlem, and these are the places where these things were happening. So we're the Harlem Renaissance, which took on that name, definitely in Harlem in New York, but it took on that name in all of Americans' urban areas.